This week on Coin Toss, one big football game, 1,000 smaller wins, and ball jokes. Lots and lots of ball jokes. What's going on, guys? This is Coin Toss. I'm Cam. He's Jared, and we're going to break down all this week's action in the world of sports. Now, of course, there's plenty of great attractions going on this week in the world of sports. You talk about the Super Bowl, Patriots, Seahawks. You talk about a little bit of controversy surrounding it. I mean,
ball's a little flat here.
Brute from point. And we had an incredible milestone that we hit in college basketball over the weekend. But everybody talked about it. It's the Super Bowl. This is the biggest time of the year for the NFL fan, especially if one of your teams is playing in it, much like Heath. So we're going to go position by position to say who has the edge in the Super Bowl. We're going to tell you who the MVP is, and we're going to tell you who we think wins the Super Bowl. But we'll start positions. Quarterback, this is not hating on Russell Wilson, who is a very, very, very good quarterback. He does what he does really well. But Tom Brady is without a doubt the best quarterback in this football game.
Tom Brady has the leadership qualities and the experience to really come out and prove something here. He can establish himself as arguably the best quarterback in the history of football, in my opinion, if he isn't already.
Which varies by opinion a little bit, but yeah, exactly. And Russell Wilson, he's a very good young quarterback. He's done a good job of leading a young Seahawks team, but I agree with Brady is... even this year's Brady, who has been a little bit off, is better than Wilson.
I agree.
Just because of experience and because, of course, he's been here 6 times as opposed to Wilson's 2. So I would go Brady. Running back, LeGarrette Blount is almost like lesser Marshawn Lynch. So, I
noticed the other day I saw LeGarrette Blount has 2.7 yards per carry after the first tackle. And I noticed Marshawn Lynch has 2.5 yards. So, LeGarrette Blount
does
no offense, but you're going up against beast mode. I think we know who wins this one.
And I think LeGarrette Blount. LeGarrette Blount is Marshawn Lynch without the Skittles. So we'll move on about that. Wide receiver, this might be the toughest battle in the entire position battles thing because both of them have pretty mediocre wide receiving core. So it's Baldwin versus Edelman. It's Amendola versus Curse, and in the end, I'm giving the edge to the Patriots because of Julian Edelman.
I agree. I think Julian Edelman, and of course you have to, if you want to include tight ends in this, it just automatically Patriots win.
Yeah. Well,
tight ends,
we'll make tight ends
specifically.
We'll make tight ends a separate thing, but Gronk spike. There's nothing else to say other than Rob freaking Gronkowski. But back to wide receivers, yeah. These teams don't rely on their wide receiver core, but I think Edelman is just the better receiver than Baldwin is at this point in his career, and Edelman's gonna. I don't think Edelman's been here before, but he's definitely a good wide receiver.
I think also the chemistry that the quarterback Brady has with his wide receiving core is better than Russell Wilson's with his.
Yeah. Now moving on the O-line, I think the Patriots win the O-line battle.
They're both decent O-lines, but I give the edge to the Patriots based off of how they've played this season.
Absolutely, Nate Solder. He's a Colorado alumni. Just won probably 6 in the NFL, so Buffaloes, yay, we did something. Defensive ends, I'm giving the edge to the Seattle Seahawks. I think Michael Bennett is a very good pass rushing DN, and I think Seattle's DNs fit better in what they try to do.
The Patriots have Chandler Jones, which he played good up until he got injured. He's come back. He's good, but I still agree, Seattle, their defensive ends and their entire defensive line really is better.
Defensive tackles now. Brandon Beebane was pretty good last year, but we haven't heard a lot about him this year. So I give the edge to Vince Wilfork, who is
run stuffing.
Testament to him. He might be the best run stuffing DT in the NFL, and that should speak a lot to how good of a player he is. We move on to outside linebackers. Now, and this is an interesting conversation because the Patriots are probably more of a pass rushing with their outside linebackers, and Seattle's much more of a coverage outside linebacker team. I give the edge to Seattle and KJ Wright for the way that they're able to cover. They're very good coverage linebackers. They're very good ball hawking linebackers. But it's a tough tag or two.
I also think Jamie Collins has played really good this year.
He could be a star in this league.
I agree. His speed and coverage, but he can also get to the quarterback really quickly. It's
very, very
amazing player.
Inside linebacker, this is easy for me. Bobby Wagner is probably behind Luke Kuechly, the best middle linebacker in the game of football. And he challenges Kuechly for it. I think he's a tremendous coverage linebacker. There's nothing he can't do, and that's why I give the edge to the Seahawks. Cornerbacks. Everybody wants to know, Sherman or Revis? The Seahawks are the better coverage core, or the Patriots? What do you think?
I think Darrelle Revis and the cornerback grouping for New England is better overall than Seattle. I think Revis and Sherman match up against each other probably about even. I would give the edge to Revis as a Patriots fan. But I think also Brandon Browner is better than Byron Maxwell, and the depth behind those two starters is really good in New England.
Yeah. I would disagree, though. I think, the cornerback position is good about depth, but, with Seattle, at best, they're playing 3 cornerbacks. I think Maxwell does a very good job on whatever second receiver. And you talk about Richard Sherman. There's a reason they don't throw to him. He is the best playmaker in football right here, right now. And he's great at getting in people's heads. It's a point that, Deion Sanders probably was not the best cornerback in football, but he got into people's heads. He was prime time, and nobody threw to him. It's the same thing with Sherman, and that's why I go with Sherman, because he has more of an impact on the game with what he does. Free safety, a lot of credit goes to Devin McCourty. He might be the most underrated player in football. Might be. He's very good coverage, free safety. Not a lot of positions he can't play, but Earl Thomas is the best cover safety in the game right here, right now.
Unfortunately, I would have to agree with that. Earl Thomas probably beats Devin McCourty on pretty much any day, really.
Yeah, and strong safety, this is another easy one. Cam Chancellor. Cam Club doing pretty well. Cam Chancellor, he hardest hitting safety in football, pairs really well with Thomas, and I think his coverage skills are underrated.
And I don't even think there's even a conversation here. Cam Chancellor versus
Patrick Chung, I think.
Patrick Chung.
Chung?
No chance. Chung wins.
Chung change. Yeah, exactly. And I think Chancellor's also underrated as a special teamer. Because, he did jump over the Panthers twice. So there's a reason why in the MUT card they released of him he had 104 jumping. But let's go on to our Super Bowl predictions. Who do you think wins the Super Bowl? And I pretty much know what you're going to say, don't I?
New England Patriots. Come on. Their defense is so good this year. Top 5. Obviously, Seattle has a better defense. But the offense in New England, Rob Gronkowski, Tom Brady, the way they're playing, any given day, LeGarrette Blount could come out. Obviously versus Seattle, it's kind of sketchy, but I think the Patriots win.
You want to give me a score?
I'd go with 27-24, New England.
Definitely. It's definitely going to be a close game. And I would agree with you. However, after seeing what happened in the NFC Championship game, I'm not betting against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not. But I like overtime football in the Super Bowl. When have we had an overtime game in the Super Bowl? This seems like it very well could be. I have the Seahawks winning 34-28 in overtime. So MVP. You have the Patriots winning. Who's your MVP of the game?
I think Rob Gronkowski is going to win MVP. At tight end, usually these guys don't get much consideration, but Gronkowski, he is so good. And he is the center of that offense. Mm-hmm. I think he scores probably 2 touchdowns and gets at least 100 yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe spikes the trophy, knowing Rob Gronkowski. My MVP is actually Bobby Wagner, middle linebacker for the Seahawks. I think the way he changes the game is, he probably, I don't know if he gets a pick, but he's going to have a lot of tackles and he's going to make a great impact on the game.
Well, I also think that last year KJ Wright winning
linebacker
MVP,
winning 2 straight times.
You don't have to be a quarterback or a running back to win it.
Proved, which is the way it should be. So I like Wagner as MVP. And then so we'll move on to another absolutely incredible milestone that happened that really challenged Deflate in coverage. The only thing in the week that did. And that's Mike Krzyzewski, 1,000 wins, which is an incredible number. He's been doing it for 40 years now. And most people don't work normal jobs 40 years. Most coaches never play 1,000 games, let alone win. So that should speak to Krzyzewski. And that got us thinking, who are your top 3 coaches, any sport, all time?
Number 1, I have to go with Phil Jackson. He is the probably best basketball coach in general. And with the triangle offense, that was amazing.
That was
crazy, changing the game like that. And then
about 11 titles.
Yes. And then after that, I have John Wooden. amazing college coach. Probably right there with Coach K, I think.
I think K can definitely challenge Wooden for greatest all time, but Wooden is the guy who made college basketball what it was. Who's your number 3?
Number 3, I have Sir Alex Ferguson with Manchester United.
I think that's an underrated
Got to get my soccer in there somehow.
I don't think, yeah, exactly. I don't think people give Ferguson enough credit for what he did with Manchester United. They weren't even the Yankees. They were more than the Yankees when he was their head coach. And you saw with Moyes at the helm that just how much this team missed Ferguson. My top 3, I have Wooden at 3. You talk about the 10 titles over 12 years at UCLA. You talk about the 88 consecutive wins. That definitely speaks to it. Phil Jackson, I have in second. 11 titles, a .704 winning percentage speaks to itself. But I actually have Krzyzewski at first. He's my greatest coach in any sport all time. And the reason I tell you why is consistency. He's coached for 40 years. And over those 40-year span, he's won 1,000 games. And he's only lost 1,300. He built a Duke program to the point where they have made 30 of the last 31 NCAA tournaments. He's won 4 titles. He's been to 11 Final Fours. And I think that's a resume that definitely speaks to the greatest coach of all time. You talk about, the differences between NBA and college are definitely there, but I like Krzyzewski.
I think it's crazy that he's only lost 308 games in his career.
1,308. But, ridiculous. Moving on to the subject that everybody is talking about, Deflategate. I know you're probably going to defend it, but for me, so let's ask the question. If you're the NFL, do you punish Patriots? How do you punish them?
I think the only way you punish the Patriots beyond a fine is if there's hard evidence, like video evidence of someone deflating the balls.
Well, yes and no at the same time. Yes, you punish if that comes out, you punish the organization. And I think even the organization needs to be punished. I take away a draft pick for what the NCAA calls lack of institutional control. The question becomes, do you fine Belichick and Brady, or do you suspend them?
No. I think you fine Belichick, but I don't think you fine Brady.
I think Brady...
Unless Brady is directly involved in it.
Well, look, right now, all the signs point to... The dots are connecting, and based on the press conferences, you look at Bill Belichick's press conference. He's called 3 of them. In the first one, he didn't really answer any questions. He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. He said, I've told you everything. He told some stuff and said, I've told you everything I have.
He's only there so he doesn't get fined, much like Marshawn Lynch.
Much like Marshawn Lynch and Media Day. But number 3, same kind of deal. Number 2, he spewed out false science. You talk about Tom Brady not knowing a lot about the things he throws every day for a living. That seems awfully suspicious. It seems like they're trying to just move on from this and get to the Super Bowl.
Which I think they should. I think it's a huge distraction. And I think the NFL needs to move swiftly with punishment, but also this was terrible timing for them.
Terrible.
Because you can't do too much in the week of the Super Bowl. You can't distract these teams.
So I think if it's proven that Belichick knew about this, you suspend him. I don't think you suspend Brady, and I dock a draft pick. One more thing. Does this really have a legacy? I honestly think the legacy this might be remembered for is another stepping stone on the road to the complete revamping of the NFL's executive order. This might be one of the final straws that Roger Goodell has. Of course, observation, hasn't all this bad stuff in the NFL happened since Pat Bowlen stepped down as the owner of the Denver Broncos? The world's not right anymore. And best wishes to Mr. Bowlen on his Alzheimer's disease. Broncos country still loves you. But, you talk about Bountygate. People don't talk about Bountygate that much. So I don't think this has that much of a legacy in the grand scheme of things. And with that, we're going to wrap up this week's episode of Coin Toss. If you like the video, hit like button, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you follow us on Twitter. You follow me at *7770. Follow him at Razzle_Dazzle_Barry. And follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at CoinTossSports. Means a lot to us, and if you like it, that's the way to show us. So that'll do it for this week's episode. Have a great week. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll be back next week on Coin Toss.